And we are not really live, but we're on recording. How are you, mate?
Good, Dave. How are you, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Welcome back to the podcast, third time round. So you want
Third
to?
time, isn't it? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I forgot we did one before. Yeah, the Average Man podcast. Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you
Thanks for
here,
having me
mate.
back.
There's a lot of things going on in the world, and I find that you've got quite an interesting point of view, and you do a little bit of political comedy via song around sort of some of the current events going on. So it's a good person. You're a good person to have on and have a chat in these super crazy times that we're living in right now.
Yeah. Well, I've avoided saying anything on the internet uh, uh, much up to this point, but it was eventually going to catch up with me. So let's just do it.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. You've just been out camping for a week, eh? Bit of rest and relaxation.
Indeed, I have. Yes, I'm living in Albany at the moment for work,
Oh,
and
beautiful.
I got 2 weeks leave and headed up to the Karri forests for some of it,
Beautiful.
and also and the coast for the other part. So one deep into the forest, and the other one at the Fitzgerald River National Park, which is
Now,
beautiful. Got these wildflowers, got whales floating around in the bay, southern right whales. Just went camping. It was absolutely stunning. Did some long walks through the dunes and saw the wildflowers. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And I hadn't been there since I was a child, so I was really really happy to check that out. Yeah, so
it's a
feeling very recharged, relaxed, ready for a bit of a internet rant.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful. What a beautiful
yeah.
part of the country too. Obviously, completely different climate to what I'm experiencing at the moment. I'm in a singlet and shorts. We've had a couple of heat waves already, and you're in a jumper and a jacket. So I'm
I
assuming.
am a giant, and I got a heater going in the
Oh wow,
background here.
wow.
And yeah, I have to say, a couple of those nights camping were not the most pleasant. Yeah, pretty cold, but it's pretty cozy in here at the moment. We've just got this in the house I'm in, a bit of a studio going on for
Yeah,
my various dabblings. You can see a electronic drum kit in the corner,
beautiful. Yep.
keeps me occupied. That cardboard box folded up is my budget vocal booth.
Oh, beautiful.
Green screen here.
I've got some little. I got three of these little soundproof panels that I slip up behind the computer for my recordings. Now I've found it. It's deadening the sound quite nicely. So yeah.
Yeah. No, you got a good sound there. Yeah, we've got a green screen on this side here with a bit of
Oh,
a mic stand and a camera stand set up.
I think
GoPro goes in there.
that answers one of my questions. I was going to get to eventually. GoPro are you using? Did you say?
Yeah, just a GoPro.
Cool. I just bought myself a GoPro 8 to start getting video of all my podcasts and putting them up on on YouTube. So these ones just go obviously off the camera on the laptop. But I'm going to start recording all the podcasts. Yeah, I just need to figure out my way around the software to kind of edit it and split it. And
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, they're amazing devices. Yeah, I've got a Hero 8. There is
yep,
another
that's what I bought.
model, a Max. That's the level up. I got this before I went to America, where I got this hoodie, California,
Yeah.
in December, and before all this
Just snuck in.
craziness of the year began.
You just snuck in.
And you had a great time.
There's been a mass exodus from California lately. People just getting the hell out of there because they're screwing it up so bad. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's right. And they get other states in America, and they go ahead and elect exactly the same kind of people who ruined California in those new states.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that people are a little bit worried about the people from California leaving California and changing the places they move to into another California.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a song about that too.
Beautiful, mate. Well, last time we had a catch up, you were working on the Trump 2020, the MAGA musical. You hadn't finished it. I don't think you'd performed it at the time, but you were quite deep into the preparations for it. Now, with COVID hitting and everything, did you get to perform that thing at any capacity, or did that kind of come to a screeching halt?
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, it went ahead at Fringe 2020 in Perth, Fringe World Festival. At my venue was the Perth Mess Hall. And they gave me the big room for the final weekend of Fringe. And I sold it out.
Beautiful.
I couldn't believe it. I was so stoked. We had a 100-person room and the main night was sold out. And yeah, it was do
you think
it was
that
quite an amazing experience from me, because you were there for the very first solo musical comedy show I did up in Headland, just a little room with about 15 people, which had a great tight packed little atmosphere and really went off.
Yeah.
But it's very intimidating to get up and do it in front of a lot of people, especially the subject matter. Like, it was Trump 2020, the MAGA musical. And so most people would have come to the show thinking, oh, this will be exclusively ripping on Trump.
Yeah.
You know, this will be very much anti-Trump, as everything else is in most entertainment circles.
Well, if you want to float in certain circles, you have to.
Yeah, that's right. You got to toe the line ideologically. But a lot of people came expecting that show, and I didn't really get a pro-Trump show, but they got, I ripped on everyone.
You just throw shit at the wall and sees what sticks, don't you?
That's right. But I was very stoked that no one, we did get, it's usual for my show to get a few people storming out in disgust.
Yeah, it'd be a failure if you didn't get a couple.
That's right. But this was I was stoked at just how many people stayed till the bitter end. Maybe they like the songs. I don't know. But it was, and it went well, but I was trolling my audience a lot. It was a lot of fun.
You said, Will, you sold out a 100-seat room. Do you think that some of that, or a lot of that, was people remembering the last show you did at Fringe, or do you think it was standalone on the content they were expecting to see in this one?
I would really like to be able to say that my reputation preceded me, but I don't think so on that occasion. That the previous show, Don't Draw Pictures of Dicks,
don't do it.
Which is about free speech, I really, really liked that show and performing that show. And I did it at the last Fringe as well. I did it on the opening weekend, and I did it every Thursday throughout Fringe. It was really hard to get people out during the week. The opening weekend did well for me. The rest was sort of like out of the time. I still enjoyed performing, but I also had to work. But then the final weekend went really well. What brought people in was really the name. You just used the word Trump.
Yeah.
Trump is a genius at branding.
Sure is.
Some people would call it excessive, building big golden buildings with your name on the top. But that name is instantly recognizable and gets a reaction one way or the other. And the fact that it was Trump 2020, the MAGA musical, made people turn out.
Yeah, beautiful.
And they turned out expecting a different kind of satire with what they got, but they still seem to leave pretty happy.
Some good promotion on your end there, mate. And another thing about Trump is, for all his shortcomings people can talk about and discuss, people like to refer to him as an idiot. Whether that's truth or not, one thing that he is really good at manipulating the media to not just necessarily get out what he wants to get out, but just to stay relevant. He manipulates the media like a master. And so, yeah,
there would be rooms, if not buildings, full of people at Twitter trying to figure out a way to stop Trump using Twitter against Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, we built this whole fucking company. We built this whole platform where all Silicon Valley leftists to a man and a woman and everything in between. And Trump is just outplaying us at our own game. And the thing is, he has been for years, since well before he was president. And that's the crazy thing about Trump. He's not a politician. He was a famous person. He was a celebrity. He was a successful business person. But the day he ran for president was the day he became a politician. You can't get that in this system, in the Westminster system. You've got to join a political party. You've got to toe the line. You've got to kiss ass. You've got to not say what you really think all throughout your career till you finally get to the end and then get to be PM. If you get that far, as only, the tiniest minority do. And you've got to be an intern at 19 making coffee for your local MP. And you've got to be in the game that whole time. And it changes people, and they don't see real life, and they don't do productive things. And they do learn to speak to the media from within the confines of a strict political party.
Yep.
As you pointed out, Trump has always just shot from the hip and said what he wanted to say at the time. And you're quite right. He's very good at moving around the media. The thing is, he knows he's the story. He knows he's the brand name. Whether people love to hate him or not, the media can't shut up about him. That's you just have to flick on the news on any channel in any country, and he'll come up.
Well, it's also part of the genius. It's also part of the genius behind the way he manipulates them, because the guy's made of Teflon. Nothing sticks. He says horrific things, terrible things that you just do not want to hear a leader in any capacity, let alone the president of the United States, saying. And it's just gone by the next news cycle because there's something else to report on. There's nothing you can say about him from his past, really, that's gonna. It's going to hang around. It's going to make any impact on the guy. It's just he keeps that news cycle moving, and he just it slips off him, and he just on to the next thing. And it's quite incredible to watch, really.
Right. Well, he's a different kind of Republican. He's a winner.
Yeah.
He's teaching the Republicans how to win. He's teaching the conservatives all around the world how to win. And you don't win by worrying too much that people don't like you. Inevitably, some people will not like you. If you can't just shrug that off and move on, you shouldn't be in that game. And a lot of politicians are crippled by the idea that someone might disapprove of something they've said or done. Well, you're inevitably going to make enemies in the process. And I wonder whether he understands just how many powerful enemies he has made. He has sacrificed his millionaire, billionaire lifestyle of luxury and comfort, and when he leaves office, people are going to be going after him legally.
And do you think these
as I understand it, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I think he's immune from prosecution.
Yes, right.
But he will be fighting legal battles for the rest of his life. I mean, he is in his 70s, so it might not be that long, but he probably thinks it's worth it now. But
is it also a case of one door closes, another door opens? I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the guy when he gets out of politics. Just again, like you said, because he is Trump, and because of that value that's attached to his name. You think he thinks he can just slide into another lane and just keep going ahead once he's done in the political scene?
What, in the world of politics?
Yeah, no, in business. Do you think once he's done with the presidency, he thinks he can just slip into another lane and just bull ahead?
If he feels the need. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's no doubt that he's the most famous person in the whole world. So I mean, as long as he can pretty much do whatever he wants after this, I suppose. But I think a lot of his energy will be consumed in, I don't know. Yeah, I just think that he knew full well what he was doing when he got into it, and
Yeah.
he made the rest of his life a fight, and that's what he got. And people won't let up on him after he leaves office. They're probably going to increase their attacks. I don't know. Depends on people's attention span, but yeah.
So what?
I felt it was a worthy topic of discussion. I had to come up with a show for Fringe 2020. You were saying last time we spoke, I hadn't written it. Well,
you'd written a few
I hadn't
songs.
finished it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I didn't get finished till like that day,
Yeah.
till opening night. And
Beautiful.
I left it so late. I went to America and I visited lots of places, and Augusta was kind of researching, and I filmed some stuff you might have seen online. I filmed a couple of long songs on location in San Francisco. One about Silicon Valley censorship, where I play the role of Mark Zuckerberg censoring Facebook, and another one. And so I went to the Googleplex and I filmed myself in front of the big Google sign. I went to the Facebook logo, the big famous where people take selfies, and I stood in front of that. And I went to Twitter headquarters. They're all in San Francisco, different parts.
Yeah.
But I found out San Francisco's fucking huge, if you include Palo Alto and Oakland. And I was catching the train, and because doesn't have as many government subsidies, the trains are like once an hour in the middle of the day. It's like, shit. Just to get around to all these places in San Francisco took all day, and it was exhausting, but it got done. And I took my viola and I played, and I fixed my GoPro to the end of it, and I played in the hippie part of town, Haight Ashbury. I played in the pleasant parts of town and in the rough parts of town. And I walked down the street with all these homeless people.
They love them there, don't they?
Playing my viola. And so it got some really interesting backgrounds going on. And I took my viola down to a big San Francisco hippie jam. It was hilarious. Like, people have been doing it every weekend since about 1967. So I went down there and jammed with all these old hippies. And but the song I was recording there was about San Francisco's horrendous public defecation problem.
Yeah, there's an app, isn't there, to show you where all the shit is so you can avoid it?
That's right. There's like
as crazy as that sounds, it's actually true, people. There's actually a real thing to help you avoid the human feces in the streets of San Francisco.
Absolutely. But God help you if you want. Just keep your eyes peeled. You only have to walk like just out the front of your hotel, and there'll be human shit in the street. There's a part of Tenderloin, is a part of town that's really close to the tourist hotel area. And you just have to make a wrong turn, and you'll slip over on a turd just outside Starbucks, shit on the ground. It's horrendous. Hey, there's a poop reporting app, and I don't know if I had my camera on me at the time, but I met some of the poop collectors in the street.
So people go around picking it up.
And had a chat to them. No, that's right. They weren't the government poop collectors. They were like a charity. Charity going around making cleanups, including hypodermic needles, because the government authorities can't keep up.
Yeah.
And like, they're helping people in the street, and they're cleaning up and stuff. Because if you make a report on the poop app, it will take several hours for the poop to get cleaned. Like,
so because they're so liberal in San Francisco that they just let the homeless people just sort of cruise around, sleep where they want, and do as they will. That's the idea behind it? Is that right? They're too they're too liberal to do anything about the homeless problem. They just sort of say, oh, they're fine, let them do their thing, and then they will work around it and try to pretend it's not an issue.
It is, yes. I mean, yes, that's part of the problem, but they actually create laws that hugely exacerbate the problem. Most of these people have horrendous drug addiction issues, and aren't getting the help they need there. And what most recently they've done, and this is not just the politicians in San Francisco, all of the voters voted for a law to change theft and burglary of a value less than $1,000 US from a felony to a misdemeanor. So if you get busted for this, it's like a traffic offense.
Yeah, right.
It's a slap on the wrist. You don't get a criminal record. You don't pay any significant penalty. And $1,000, that's a lot of shit. So people will walk into stores and just fill their bags. The staff can't do anything. They walk out, and there's a huge fencing network set up by the cartels. The drug dealer gangs have all this set up whereby they'll exchange the stolen goods for money and drugs.
Yeah, right.
So they're so liberal. They want to decriminalize everything. And $1,000 is a lot of stuff.
For a small business owner, it's huge.
Absolutely huge. And so people are closing their businesses, moving out of town, and these cities are dying. And this was well before the riots started, by the way, when I visited them at the start of the year. But the homeless situation is out of control and fueled by these well-intentioned but totally misguided laws. But it's I just, you know, you can sit here and debate the pros and cons of it all day. But one thing that I believe is well, it's just right for humor. I think there's plenty of hilarity that can be got out of the situation, and that's how I choose to approach it. So I wrote this song called "Take a Shit in San Francisco." simple expository sort of title, and explains what's going on in the song pretty clearly. And it's in the style of an old hippie. The character's an old hippie who's thinking about, man, I wish I could go back to San Francisco, you know, like the way it used to be when I was studying at Berkeley and spitting on Vietnam War vets. And geez, those were the days. If you go back there, do a shit for me. Be free, man. Just shit anywhere you want. And when I had that idea, I was like, yeah, this is a song. And so that ended up being in the style of a hippie band, like say Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Don't know.
And so that hippie character, do you know who I mean?
No, but I can investigate at a later date.
Man, one of the classic bands of the hip. They're actually a fucking great band. Just go and look them up. Yeah, yep. Crosby, Stills and Nash, and then later they added, or earlier, but they added Neil Young at some point. He was in there temporarily. Right. Crosby, Stills and Nash are the core of the band, in my opinion. And they have a beautiful vocal blend. They have this acoustic sound. They write wonderful songs, and their harmonies are insane.
Crosby, Stills and Nash.
But they are the archetypal hippies from San Francisco, and or from California, and and so this song ended up being kind of in their style. Like it's just a folk rock song, like so many millions of other songs. But yeah, this is a wistful, melancholy one about the freedom of taking a shit in San Francisco. So
beautiful.
I walked around Berkeley, I walked around Tenderloin.
Now it's just you. It's just you out there walking around with your viola and the GoPro attached to the end of it, and filming yourself. So you're a one-man performance in these places. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
beautiful.
And the audio is live from the street, so people know that I really am talking about taking a shit right in front of the. And
were you getting live viewers, onlookers, people interested in what you were doing and singing about?
A couple of people. When I checked the footage in the background, you can see they were sort of like, you know, hi mom sort of thing or whatever. Yeah. They were getting attention, but for the most part, in a town full of people randomly taking a shit, people are not really going to notice mild eccentricity, like just playing the viola. Just like, whatever, man. It's just another crazy person.
Do your thing, man. Now, these videos, there's a few of them at this stage. Are they on your YouTube channel?
That's right. Yeah, Viola Willie.
Viola Willie on YouTube?
YouTube, yeah.
Because I dare say there'll be some people listening who are thinking, what the hell does this look like in real time? So they're going to want to go and check that out. Hopefully we can get you a few more subscribers on there. That'd be great.
Yeah, cheers. I don't think it doesn't have a link that has a name. You have to have X number of subscribers till you can do that with YouTube or something. But if you just go to YouTube and search Viola Willie, and then you can search for the song title if you like, but you'll find it. There's Take a Shit in San Francisco. There's Orange Man Bad. That's the one about big tech censorship. And then there's the new one, We Are Antifa.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll get to that one very soon. I'm just trying to figure out how I could share your videos on my page as well. Maybe I have to do it on the computer. It takes me a long time to do anything straightforward when it comes to technology, but I get there in the end. So if I can do that, I'll give them a little boost through mine as well, which is only really just getting off the ground at the moment, slowly starting to build my YouTube up. Now, did you hear there was an idea floated on one of Rogan's latest podcasts, obviously the largest podcast in the world. The dude's just moved to Texas. He's one of those people fleeing California because of all the bullshit going on there.
So I hear, yeah.
Yep. And coincided with his move to Spotify, $100 million deal, apparently somewhere around there, to just keep doing what he's doing, and they'll get exclusively get his content. Now,
100 million.
Somewhere in the ballpark of, yep. So they're obviously they're banking on getting a lot of. Well, I'm not sure how they're going to make their money on it, but obviously they've got a plan. It'll definitely bring people to that platform. They've got their own video platform starting up now as well. I suppose that's going to rival YouTube. But they, on a recent podcast, he had a guy on there, Tim Kennedy. He's an ex-UFC fighter, but also a special forces guy and quite politically astute. And he was sort of mentioned the fact that about how they were talking about how ridiculous it is to try and, well, one, how they're going to have a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump when Joe Biden, by all accounts, seems to be losing his marbles in real time as we all watch it play out. Whether that's the case or not, we don't really know. But they're trying to avoid this whole political system of debating where it's basically short snippets and sound bites, and nobody gets to sit down and have an actual one-on-one discussion and hear what these people are about and hear them work out problems and conversations, in an actual conversation format. So they floated the idea of having them sit down on the Rogan podcast, him as Rogan mediating or moderating, and just have just talk and discuss things for 3 or 4 hours. And Trump actually tweeted that he was down for it, which doesn't really mean anything, but it means that he saw it and it was on his radar. And what do you think about that as an idea? You think that not necessarily that specifically happening, but moving forward with the technologies and the platforms that we have these days, so that politicians could really sit down in a one-on-one situation without media and viewers and live reactions from audiences and all that sort of thing, and just talk about shit like people do, like podcasters are doing now, and just actually get their point of view out in long form. What do you think about that as an idea moving forward?
Sounds pretty good to me. Podcasting, as you know, I mean, you're well into it, is a very popular form of entertainment and content consumption and educational
Communication.
Content. Absolutely. And I think it sounds good. I do think, though, that that places a lot of trust in the candidate.
Yeah.
And certain political parties wouldn't want to do that, because Trump is basically his own show. He'd be fine. And he goes off the reservation and he talks about crazy shit anyway, and just goes on tangents. And we know that he's always done that. He doesn't have, he's not a particularly polished orator.
No.
But I mean, he can use the teleprompter as is standard now when he wants to stick 100% on message and not waffle. Like, for instance, 4th of July this year at Mount Rushmore. He did, and you can instantly tell when he's reading and when he's just saying random shit, because he'll just repeat it.
Yeah.
He'll
waxing lyrical.
I don't want to do a Trump impression now because it's just going to suck. But like,
you do have to have them polished, don't you? Impressions. You've got to have them ready.
Well, Abraham Lincoln's famous oration at the Gettysburg Address is only 2 or 3 minutes long, but absolutely brilliant, absolutely to the point. Written himself and done without notes, and it's only a couple of minutes long. But most people use teleprompters these days, but Trump will be 100% at home on a Joe Rogan podcast because he can shoot the shit with anyone, but it would be everyone, there would be, to think of the ratings, to have Trump there, to have Biden there, and Joe Rogan. It'd be pretty butch environment. It's just three sort of like dudes over 50 just hanging out.
Yeah.
But everyone would watch it.
Yeah.
And it would be fucking hilarious. It would be hilarious. Because for the first little while, they'll be like trying to be respectful and like, trying to tip their hat and say, yeah, okay, blah, 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 and give the other person room to be. But within minutes, it'd be like, whoa, hold on there. No, whoa, hey. And then they'd start having a go at each other. And that'd be, the level of incoherence on both sides would just escalate until they both started sounding crazy. Voices were rising. And I'll be like, whoa, guys. But Joe Rogan, that is, not Biden. But I don't think it would never happen because as you point out, we've all got our suspicions about just how with it Joe Biden is in terms of his cognitive function, and his gaffes sort of seem to bear that out, although there's no definitive proof that he, and there's certainly no formal, there's no public acknowledgement of any formal, statement about his mental abilities. But
the guy's had multiple, or at least 2 brain surgeries in the past because he's had brain
Has
aneurysms.
he?
Yeah, he openly spoke about them. It was years ago now, but he's had brain aneurysms and brain surgeries. So that's a worrying factor about someone's cognitive function. But then, perhaps it's these little sound bites and these little pre-written things that he's not really 100% committed to, that he stumbles on. And perhaps when you sit down and talk to the guy for an hour, 2 hours, you actually get more of a coherent version out of him, because surely they haven't put some bumbling old man who doesn't know what's going on up there to run against Donald Trump.
Surely they haven't done that. They couldn't have done that, Dave. No, they would never do that.
This sounds like a conspiracy theory.
There's no evil puppeteers in the background, Dave. They couldn't. Why would they do that? That would just be so mean, wouldn't it? They'd just be so cynical and awful and nasty. It's not as if they'd do absolutely anything to regain power if they could. 100%. In my opinion, I'll drop the sarcasm for a minute. In my opinion, it is well within their capabilities to put a puppet candidate up. There's all sorts of conjecture in the background that he would quit at a various stage, and someone would be waiting in the wings to take his place, either before or after the election, or after the election before the inauguration, or even before the. Wait, no, he is formally the candidate now. They had the national convention, and he is now officially the candidate. So anyway, yeah. So, but he there's no way he would handle a 2 or 3 hour podcast with. No, there's just no way. The thing is, his mind has had to control him far too much.
Yep.
And Trump would have advisors in the background, but I think there's a famous quote from. I don't know it word for word, but Trump's campaign manager, his plan was always let Trump be Trump. Yeah. So when Trump started rambling, he was like, I'm not gonna get the elocution teachers in to sort this out. I'm just gonna let him do what he does, and because that's the only way he's gonna win if people see how he really is.
You can't give a watered down version. Yeah.
In short, to use boxing or UFC terminology like Joe Rogan might like, they're in a totally different weight division. Like Trump would maul Joe Rogan.
Biden.
What? Joe Biden. Joe Biden's campaign is already not looking good, and it would be a beaten bloody lifeless pulp after an hour or even 10, 15 minutes in a room with Trump talking man to man.
How about moving forward, though, as a possible? Do you see something like that as a possible thing in the future, where we could actually start having long form conversations between leaders and politicians and things like that, rather than, that's what people want, more realistic input and information these days. We know that the
I can tell you, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
but I don't think we'll get it, because the candidates, 99 times out of 100, the candidates are much more tightly controlled than that.
Yeah.
They would only be able to do it with an earpiece in their ear, with their minders telling them what to say.
Yeah, right. So, well, then again, I suppose that would pose the question that if moving forward, perhaps we need to start it force the real brains behind operations to start coming to the forefront, rather than putting, what you're talking about, figureheads and things like that up to run for these positions. Because you look at the candidates when it comes to, especially the presidencies in the last few years, they're definitely not the greatest minds, the most brilliant people, the most fitting person for the job who are going for it. So where are all the great minds? I suppose a lot of people don't want to do that job, but if you had to make an account of yourself in real time, perhaps that would change the way that they the kind of people they put forward for these positions moving forward. But it's all speculation. I just thought I'd throw it out there anyway. And on this, obviously, you like.
No, I agree. I'd like to see more of the. I'd like to see people showing their faces a lot more. But it's funny in you have to have a celebrity quality to be the candidate, to be a successful candidate. And we've known about this since like Augustus Caesar, the guy who seized control of the Roman Republic and turned it into an empire. He understood the power of image. And the one man who was beloved in the public eye took over the republic, and all the old men of the Senate were helpless to stop him.
Yeah,
and he wasn't just and so you've got to have a star quality to be that candidate, and so they're just in the same way that sportsmen have a team of people to back them up, trainers, psychologists, physios, whoever. You're always going to have that team, but it would be good to see candidates coming forward that weren't just a pretty face. I agree. And maybe long form debating content would help that. So I do agree with you. Yeah.
Cool. Now I want to jump on something before we run out of time. I know you've got some things to get to today, and so do I. But you just shot me a little link last night of your newest comedy song, which will be up on your YouTube channel as well. Tell us a little bit about this one. I had quite a little chuckle watching it last night on the big screen. We had it up on the YouTube, on the TV.
Well, I wrote the lyrics to this song for the Trump 2020 musical, which was put on in February. And it's about ANTIFA, who I don't know how much your viewers and listeners know about them, but they're essentially it's shortening of anti-fascist, and they're essentially a group of far left
anti-fascist activists who would probably who don't hesitate to use violence as a measure of enforcing their point of view. That'd be
exactly
accurate? Yeah,
exactly. And this has been creeping up for a long time. They've been a feature of like May Day protests for years, and in Portland, Oregon seems to be on the west coast of the USA seems to be a particular sort of like area where they are active, but they've spread everywhere. And essentially, when I wrote the lyrics, the riots in America and around the world hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
And it was about free speech. They target people they disagree with, and they beat them in the street. Like whenever there's they were very good at, they're the sort of people who do counter protests, like say someone doesn't want the statue of George Washington ripped down and they have a small rally to defend it. Well, they'll make sure they hold a counter protest at the same day, at the same time. And what would have been peaceful ends up being a riot.
Yeah.
Free for all. And they just can't stand other people expressing themselves. And I actually went to, when I was in Seattle briefly at the start of the year, there was a very small Trump rally they had that was organized by guys who call themselves the Colored Conservatives. And I went down to that, and the police were very active there in protecting us. And they had a route mapped out, and then they wanted us to step inside this cage, and people were gathering, Antifa people were gathering around with like masks and, weapons and what have you. And the cops were on like push bikes forming a barrier. And they were saying, if you guys want to start talking with megaphones, whatever, you have to get in this fenced off area. And people were starting to close us in. I'm like, I'm like this in the country. I kind of have no rights, and I've only got travel insurance for my medical. So I think I'm just going to bail right now and go see some of the wonderful sights of Seattle. But I stayed in touch with the guys who organized that rally, and they were saying, yeah, it got super dicey, and all they wanted to do was express their, right to say whatever they wanted as American citizens, as protected by the First Amendment in their Constitution. They had a little bit of a rally, just a few people, to show their support for the sitting and duly elected president. But no, we can't have that. We've got to show up and scream at them, shout at them, intimidate them, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got to rely on the police to protect you. So, and that got violent. So yeah. I saw that up pretty close. And that's the context in which I wrote the lyrics about their anti-free speech. And I name check another guy in the song called Andy No. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Andy No is a gay Asian independent journalist in America who's been going out of his way for a while now to expose Antifa, to show these hoodlums for who they really are. Because, and he went with his GoPro to one of their rallies around about this time in Washington last year, in Portland, and he got beaten savagely, and you were talking about brain bleeds, he got a brain bleed as well from that. And so here they are, they're basically bashing immigrants and bashing gays, and then turning around and saying, we're not the fascists.
Yeah, right.
Bashing people who have a different opinion. No, honestly, the other guys are the fascists.
Yeah.
And so that became the premise for the song.
And so I compare
them to fascists.
It's quite hilarious. Anybody who's listening, again, go onto the YouTube channel and check it out. That was the use of your green screen. I'm guessing.
That's right. Yeah, I danced around in front of this green screen.
Yeah.
And like an idiot, I played my double bass. You can see on the ground here. Which I took up at the start of this year, which is my favorite instrument now.
Beautiful. In a very inflammatory outfit, and with a very interesting accent, and yeah. So,
yeah. Here's the armband.
Yeah. Yep.
Which might remind you of a certain other infamous political organization. But yeah. So yeah, exactly. Well, that was it. I had to draw the visual parallels.
But the irony,
as well, right?
Maybe that's right. And the irony about Antifa is it's you can't miss it. It's so in your face. And I think this discussion of free speech has been a bit of a through topic through our these three podcasts now. And the idea that you don't agree with what somebody says, so you deplatform them, you ban them, or you bash them. It's just not what it's all about. If you disagree with what somebody says, you come at them with counter ideas, and you make sure that you have good argument behind your ideas. And because an idea is bullshit until it's released into the world and been tested and tried and stood on and had to stand up for itself, isn't it? It's just an ideology.
Exactly.
Until it's been put up against other ideas, and then you go, well, if my idea is worth its salt, then I shouldn't have to be scared of people with counter ideas. We just throw them at each other and sort of see who, how they stand up, and this whole
exactly. And when people start resorting to this kind of violence to shut down debate, it's tantamount to admitting that their ideas are complete bullshit.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if the ideas don't stand up on their own merits, then why do you need to scare people into believing it? Why do you need to bash people into not opposing you?
And it's also patronising to
And
think that you're smart enough and you're well read and educated enough for these ideas not to fool you, and you know that they're just such complete bullshit. But you're worried about the other people who are so stupid that if they hear these crazy ideas, they're going to go throw their life away and go follow them because they're not as smart and as well thought out as you. You know, it's quite patronising. Let people make their own minds up, and again, just give them the counter argument.
You make an excellent point, Dave. It's so condescending, and you see it on people's comments. There was something. If not that well prepared, sorry for this discussion,
fine.
You see it on people's comments online, like. They get really angry that you mention a topic or you bring up a topic. They get angry that you haven't kept it a secret. It's like, what's the matter with you? All of the idiots are going to believe it now. Yeah. It's like, well, are you sure you're not the idiot, mate?
Yeah.
There's, you're absolutely right. It's so condescending that there's some sort of mass of people out there that need to be protected from dangerous ideas.
I think a novel way to sort of example of this would be, say, the flat earthers, right? Complete, absolute horse shit. It's ridiculous. It's comedic, and I think a lot of those people do it as a bit of a troll. But let them talk. Let them have their YouTube videos. Let them have their platform. There's plenty of science out there. I mean, it's countless how many scientists and articles and the information and satellite images, and we know that the world is round. It's complete horseshit. Who cares? Let them talk. Let them say their bit. Lead people to the real information, and the people who want to go believe that and tag that line. So help, so like God help them, and so be it. Like that's it. Fine, walk away from it. It's free speech. They can have their stupid ideas.
Are they hurting anyone? Probably not.
No, and I understand that some of these ideas are more to do with controversial issues and could invoke hate or exclusion of other groups and things like that. But the concept is still the same. Come at it with counter ideas, and then people are going to think what they think. You can't control them. So
quite right.
Yeah.
Well said, Dave. And it's also, if you don't believe in free speech for speech that offends you, then you don't believe in free speech at all.
Correct. I believe you gave us the quote last time.
If you think that the only speech that should be going around is the speech that is music to your ears, if you think that free speech is just everything that I agree with, and that's just wonderful, that's so free, it's like you're a complete idiot.
Yeah.
Free speech is when someone can say something extremely jarring and frightening to you, and you don't have the legal means of shutting them up.
I think you actually said last time there's a
quote. You can tell them to shut up. You can shout at them to shut up. You can tell all your friends to tell them to shut up. That's all fine. That's social control.
Yeah.
But when you cross the line into using the state to shut them up or into using violence to shut them up, fuck you.
Yeah. And I believe that, I can't remember the exact quote, but about I believe in the freedom of speech and your right to say something that offends me so much that I'm willing to die for it, for your right to say something that I disagree with. That I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's right. Let me make an attempt as well. I disagree with what you say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it.
Yeah. Something along those lines. And that's what it's all about, the free speech.
Something like that.
Now, there is places in the world where you can't have free speech, which leads me to another little leading question. Just before we wrap it up, we're sort of the time's getting near to that point now. But just quickly, all this talk about China and Russia affecting the elections in the US. When you listen to people in the know, they say 100%, surely we do the same thing to them. It's definitely happening. The reasons behind it, there's some different theories on it. Now, the idea that they want one candidate or another seems to be neither here nor there. It seems to be the idea of affecting negatively the elections in the US is simply to make democracy look bad. That's all they have to do. It doesn't matter who gets voted in. If you can question the process, if you can make people question the process, that's basically the idea of those countries meddling in other political affairs. Would you think that that's an accurate representation of what's going on?
I paraphrase your question. I'm not quite sure I get it, but like, are you suggesting that China, for instance, might be meddling in the US election, and that they don't really care about the result as long as America looks bad in one way or another?
Basically, and they're using the freedom of speech platforms of social media. Yeah, freedom of speech. But you're using the platforms of social media that these countries have used themselves for, especially for a lot of the left-wing sort of politics. Obviously, it's the people in control of those large companies are from that side of the fence, but they're using those platforms to then cause dissent amongst voters and basically trying to discredit the entire. Oh, I've got an unstable internet connection. Trying to discredit the entire process, and that's the main goal between meddling in those kind of affairs.
I have no doubt that foreign election interference is the thing. But I mean, I'm sure it goes on. People attempt it all the time.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, one, they want to make the process look. I think what I'm trying to get at is, one, they want to make the process look bad and flawed. But I think also one of the main goal behind that is, if they can get right wing and left wing to attack each other and have less people in the middle, that's also a victory. So the more you can turn people against each other and have them flying off the handle without seeing eye to eye and meeting in the middle, that's also that and making the whole process look bad is sort of one of the main goals of that entire.
To sow division, shall we say?
Yes.
100%, 100% agree, and that division weakens the democratic countries, and it's much easier to, as you point out, it's in a country that has freedom of speech.
It's easy to go in there and crash the party,
such as America, to a lesser extent Australia, and that has social media, and that's not constantly policed by the government, although that's increasing. When there is freedom of speech, you can subvert it. Foreign powers can subvert it and place false flags, and you get bot accounts setting up. You're turning people against each other online and what have you. Absolutely, I think there's definitely going on. But one other thing about social media as well is, I think to a large extent, the division was always there. The division, like, there's a saying that you get the most flack when you're over the target. When you're doing your bombing run, the guns get thicker when you're about to score a hit on the target.
Right.
If you're nowhere near the target, there'll be no defensive guns.
Right.
So, like, sorry to talk in metaphors, but now the internet has changed everything forever, and what could previously be kept secret very successfully can't anymore. And they will do their absolute best. The politicians and big tech censorship and I've got another song about that. You can look up online at Viola Willie on YouTube. But we'll join together and they'll censor the blazes out of everything, and they'll fact check everything, and they'll try to shut stuff down. But once the idea is out, it's very difficult to suppress. It might not be in the mainstream media, but it's spreading. And I think that there was always a lot of disenfranchised voters who simply didn't have a platform because they didn't have representatives in politics, and they didn't have representatives in media, and they didn't have representatives in, say, big unions or what have you. People, you know, or say commerce lobby groups, big business lobby groups. All of these things existed before, and they would defend various other interests. But there's always been a lot of people who were never previously able to speak out. And I think that what looks to a lot of people like a new division online and more hatred than there's ever been is actually a really positive thing. It's people getting to speak their mind as free citizens for literally the first time in history. And is a fundamental tectonic shift in the land that will change everything forever, and the way politics is done I think in a positive way. And I am not afraid one bit of a lot of vitriol and anger online taking place. I think this will eventually work itself out. You get the people out there who just want to rant for ranting's sake, or just angry, nasty people and contrarians. They expose themselves very quickly and get marginalized pretty quickly. And I just think the more debate, the better. And there are a bunch of vested interests who now no longer control the debate, and they are fighting tooth and nail to get that control back, to get back control of the media, and get back control of politics, to get back control of people's minds. Yeah. And that is why there's so much anger and hate. And that's why there are so many riots. And that's why a simple disagreement is escalating into violence at no provocation anymore. And it's gone mad. But people who were previously in control of the message are losing control, and they are giving it everything they've got, and they are utterly unscrupulous and ruthless, and rather see a country burn than give up control of it. Yeah. And I think it's a wonderful time for debate and openness in society. I think let the citizens have it out with them in a harmless debating online platform as much as they want. But it's a completely different story when they go in the streets and start burning shit down, beating people up, shooting one another and what have you.
So things are,
in order to get their point across. That is the difference between a democracy and not.
And things are a little messy at the moment because, as you say, everyone's got a voice now, and we're learning how to deal with that on our feet. The huge shifts in the way we get our information. So there's a learning curve there that we're all humanity's trying to figure out on the fly, and as well, time's getting there, and as well. That we're in a pendulum swing. You know, we may be at the top end of the swing at the moment. It might be starting to come back down. Only time will tell that. But there's going to be these big pendulum swings of which way people lean and the way policies and things like that and the general culture goes. Just quickly before I get you out of here, though, I did want to know. It seems just from the general discussion, you seem to be more. You lean towards Trump as a leader than the opposition at the moment. Now, is it a political party thing? Is it the guy and his ideas, or is it more of an anti what you see happening on the other side, and you see it more of as a check and balance to some of the more crazy, out of control left wing ideas and powers sort of that we've seen emerge over the last 10, 15 years? Is it more of a balancing thing, or are you behind the policies on that side of the fence, or do you jump between?
Well, look, I mean, definitely, given his current opposition, absolutely, I would support Trump.
Yep.
If I was an American and I had the right to vote in that election, I'd be voting for Trump. I don't though, so
Yeah.
to a certain extent, my opinion is irrelevant. But I mean, I like telling people my opinion, so I might as well keep waffling on for the few remaining minutes. But look, like most people, Trump was an unknown quantity before he got elected because he wasn't a politician. He was never the governor of a state. He was never a senator. He was just a guy. And so no one knew what was going to happen. So I was a bit worried. And everyone had us believing that he was going to start World War III.
Yeah.
And here we have it. New peace deals now in between Bosnia and Serbia. Recently one between Israel and Qatar or something, United Arab Emirates or something, some other Arab nation. It's like, this is crazy. Peace deals left, right, and center. And the North Korea sort of situation improving as well. We all thought that was going to go off the rails.
Yeah.
But he was the first Western leader to go through that demilitarized zone. I think he's done it. It's been the exact opposite of what we told was going to happen. And what the big change for me was like, economically, like I'm not an economist, but we've always been told for as long as I've been alive that free markets, free trade, this, that, and the next thing, and you're not allowed to have tariffs, and you're not allowed to have, and I that's supposed to be good for everyone's economy, isn't it? But we would do it, and then countries like China wouldn't do it. They would hoard the currency, the US dollar. They would stack the terms of trade against free market economies, and consequently, we lost all of our manufacturing.
Yeah.
To all those cheap labor countries. And Obama famously said, I don't have a magic wand to bring those jobs back. Well, Trump has done his best to, he's a negotiator. He's a businessman. He knows when someone's got his balls in a vice. Yeah. He makes deals. That's what he did. And so he went in there and he fucking tore up the deal and he wrote another deal as a businessman should. It's like, you need us more than we need you. You need us to consume your goods. We can always find an alternative source for the goods that we consume. You need us more than we need you. And he tore the deal. All of a sudden, there's a far better trade deal between the US and its neighbors and with China and what have you. And I don't know if there's a formal deal signed, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. And there's all sorts of tariffs. And the Chinese just had to bend over and take it. He has opened my eyes to a new form of economics like that. Fucking oath, I am 100% behind it. I'm so sick of jobs leaving this country and America and Britain and all these places that I've lived. Bring them back.
Especially now.
Especially
now we know we can be brought to our knees. Especially now we know that the economy can be brought to its, it can be brought to its knees, and all of a sudden you can't buy all the things you rely on because everything comes from overseas because it's cheaper to do it that way. So there's a big eye opener there.
Even the medicines, even the masks, even the gowns, all the personal protective equipment, even the tests. Oh, it's a virus so deadly you have to get a test to know if we've even got it. Like all of this, we didn't even touch on this subject. I thought you were going to talk about this for an hour. We'll have to do it again sometime. But like you've hit the nail right on the head, man. It's a strategic thing as much as an economic thing. We have to protect ourselves by keeping jobs here as much as we can. And Trump has opened the entire world's eyes to the reality of this, as if he was the only person who ever saw it. Thank God a businessman has trumped the economists sitting in their universities, who have never done anything productive in their lives. So that, I didn't really talk much about political, cultural issues there, but just on those two things alone, in international relations and trade, fucking oath, I would vote for Trump.
Right, beautiful. I think we should end it on that, Will. And like you said, I did have some stuff here about the whole COVID thing going on, and what your opinions on the Chinese numbers and things like that are, and where we think it really came from. But it's a whole nother podcast. You're right. So I'm open to do it again in the
whole
next
other
couple of weeks.
podcast.
Yeah, if you're up for it, we'll do it again in the next couple of weeks, whatever
I
works.
think we're going to have most of next year to talk about it, man. This lockdown.
That's true.
On and on.
That is true. But there's a bunch of things that I'd definitely love to chat about and discuss if you're up for it again at another stage. But,
Anytime,
I had a bunch of loose notes written down here. And as, I knew you'd deliver. And it's very easy to just talk to you about shit. And it's good to, all these kind of ideas that bounce around in my head. And I hear you hear information from all different places. It's good to bounce them off someone else, sort of, face to face, well, computer to computer at sometimes and just sort of see someone else's opinion. Because, I don't talk like this to the blokes at work.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Like that, so.
Thank you so much for having me back. I love coming to chat on this show. And you're right. So there's been a free speech emphasis all 3 times so far. And I'm really proud that we both agree about that. And yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks, man.
Beautiful.
Keep it up. I hope your podcast is going really well.
Beautiful. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thanks for coming on Average Man Podcast. This one will be called The Brews. That's a NoFX song, which is basically about a bunch of Hebrew punk anti-fascists going out and stomping people who they disagree with. Which is a song I used to listen to when I was 15. Never really understood what it was about. And I thought, what a perfect topic. What a perfect song for today's topic. So there we go. That'll be brought in on the audio versions. NoFX, The Brews. Episode number 80.
You could also put in... You also put the Dead Kennedys, Nazi punks, fuck off.
I looked at that one. I looked at that one as one of my options because I was looking into hardcore punk songs for an opener because I know that they're kind of tied with that whole left wing sort of scene. There's a big anti-fascist hardcore punk scene, but really this was just a song from my childhood that I knew that popped up, and I thought Nazi punks fuck off.
Yeah, no, it's a good choice, man. It's much more subtle.
A little more subtle. It's going to be a little hard for people to hear that from the first couple of minutes of the podcast. So there we go. We're done, mate, and I appreciate your time, and I look forward to having you back on again sometime in the future. Viola Willie on YouTube. Go check him out. And yeah, Average Man Podcast, episode number 80. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, mate. Over and out.
Good on you, mate. Love to you and your family.
Thank
you.
Best,
mate. Ooh, that was a bit. Ooh.